Hello everyone, welcome back once again to another video, and this one we are testing the GeForce RTX 4070 Ti Super in Monster Hunter Wilds, and we're going to be testing it into the full game, not the benchmark tool. And here are all the specs of the GPU. We have the Zotac AMP Hollow model of the card, we have the 16 gigs of GDDR6X from Micron, we have the latest NVIDIA driver 572.70 as well, and resizable bar is enabled. Also inside BIOS, over here in Task Manager, we have the Intel Core i7-13700K CPU. For memory, we have 64 gigabytes of DDR5 6000 megatransfers per second CL36. Finally, for MSI Afterburner, no overclocks are applied. Everything is set to stock settings. So let's jump into the game and check out the frame rates. So here we are, guys, inside Monster Hunter World's graphics settings, and we're gonna start it off with 1080p resolution. There's no full screen mode in this game, only borderless and window mode, so we're going to stick to borderless. Reflex is enabled, VSync is turned off, no frame rate caps being enabled. And here are the graphics settings. We're going to use the ultra graphics preset settings at first, and I expect it's not going to be a good experience even at 1080p. And by default it enables DLSS, so we're going to disable that for now, and we are only going to use FXAA and TAA. We will also try DLAA. And here are the rest of the settings. Everything is set to ultra preset settings, and motion blur and vignette is turned off. Oh my goodness, we are getting 70 FPS only, and look at our GPU usage. It's like it's not good. It's fluctuating. It's all over the place. It was like 88 at the beginning, and now it's around 90. Now it's 98. It's not good, guys. This game's optimization is horrible. Even 4070 Ti Super with i7-13700KF, the GPU usage cannot max out. Even at higher resolution, I guess it's gonna be the same thing. This is 1080p, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the same for other resolutions also. Because with the 4060 only, it was struggling to get like 99% GPU usage. It was like hovering around 94, 95, even at higher res. And this is the same case with this GPU. And look at our frame time graph, that constant spiking. So there is micro stuttering all over the place, and I can actually feel those. And I don't know how long they're gonna take to optimize this game. This just came out, I think, in February. Did this game come out? I'm kind of confused. I don't know. But oh, this guy is alive again. We killed him last time at the beginning of the game, I think. But nevertheless, this is what you can expect. 13.8 gigs of VRAM being allocated. Now it suddenly dropped as we came out of that tunnel area, or this cave. And I don't know how the later levels or the stages or the biomes, so-called, how much more demanding they're gonna be. Because this is just a desert area, and it will take me a lot of time to play through this game if I need to get to the next biome. So I don't have time for that. So this is what I'm gonna test. Now we are using TAA plus FXAA, so I'm gonna turn on DLAA now. We're getting like 84, 85 FPS in this scene. Turn on DLSS, and we're gonna use DLAA. And I'm also using DLSS 4 by overriding from the NVIDIA settings, or NVIDIA app settings, and we are getting 82 FPS right now. So a 4 FPS hit there in performance. But yeah, I think DLAA looks a little bit better than TAA. A lot more sharper and crisp image I can see with DLAA, but the performance does get a bit of hit there. So in a game like this where there's so much FPS drops and stuttering, I think you are better off with sticking to TAA. Moving on, guys, at 1080p resolution, using the same settings as previously, using DLAA and Ultra Graphics preset, we're gonna have to enable frame generation and check it out. Unfortunately, at 1080p only, we are having to use DLSS frame generation. And also, I have restarted the game, just so you know, after enabling DLSS frame generation. And here we are back at the campsite, and now look at our frame time graph. It's much better than previously. It is much more smooth, the gameplay. And input latency, I cannot really feel it much. It is there, obviously. It's kind of negligible. and we are getting 120-30 FPS. It still stutters occasionally, the game, even with frame gen turned on. And I think this is a playable experience with ultra graphics settings. And this game is kind of not optimized for 1080p, just like the Hogwarts Legacy and Jedi Survivor. They looked horrible at 1080p resolution, and so does this game as well. This is kind of better than those two, but still. And I'm gonna try and fight this chicken monster over here really quickly and check out the input latency. We're dropping to like 100 FPS now, but FrameGen implementation has been pretty good. Even with the 4060 I tested, it was pretty good, and I couldn't really feel any input latency there, and I can't feel it here as well. Obviously, this is a much better GPU than the 4060 was, so it should be a better experience. And it is definitely. I can play this game with FrameGen enabled. Even if you get like 80, 88, 90 FPS with FG turned on, I think it's quite playable. And if you're gonna play with the controller, it's even more playable. Okay, I'm not gonna kill this monster. I don't know how to. It's gonna take me a while, so I just now realized that when we were using the ultra graphics settings, ray tracing was turned on by default. It was set to high, which is maximum. So that's why we were getting pretty low FPS. So this time what we're gonna do is turn off ray tracing when I use DLAA. And I'm just gonna turn off ray tracing and quickly restart the game as well. And the rest of the settings are pretty much set to their ultra settings preset. So here we go, guys. Without any ray tracing settings turned on, ray tracing is set to off. And now we are getting like 80 FPS using the ultra graphics settings. And by the image quality, it looks all the same to me, with and without ray tracing, honestly, in this game. And look at our GPU usage dropping to 84. It's not good at all. I don't know what's causing this problem in this game. I have no clue. Probably it's getting being limited by the CPU, I'm guessing. That's most likely what is happening. It's not able to use all the cores, and probably just using one or two cores of the CPU. But here we go, without ray tracing. I think it's much more playable. You don't need to use any upscaling or frame generation like this. It does stutter there, as you can see, still in the frame time without even using RT. So you can enable frame generation on top of this and get 100+ FPS, and it will just make the game even more smooth. Since the base FPS is pretty much above 60, you shouldn't have a problem with frame generation. So as I said, I enabled DLSS frame generation now because the base FPS is above 60 most of the time, and the rest of the settings, as you can see, set to ultra using DLAA. And with frame generation enabled, as you can see, it's much more smoother of an experience. We're getting 120+ FPS now. It even goes up to 130 at times. And this is quite more playable now. It's much more smooth. And there is absolutely no input latency, which I can feel with my mouse. And this is how you can play it pretty much if you don't want to use ray tracing. And I think ray tracing is pointless in this game. Just keep it turned off. You will get a bit better experience overall in terms of performance. Okay guys, I'm switching it to the high quality graphics settings, and we're gonna switch this to NVIDIA DLAA, and ray tracing is set to off. Everything is set to high settings preset pretty much. We have frame gen turned off as well. So I have also restarted the game, just so you know, already. And here we go. We're getting 70 FPS. Like a little bit higher FPS you can get with high quality settings compared to ultra, but the game looks the same, almost the same. There's absolutely no difference I can spot in this from ultra to high. And now we're getting 90s. That's new. Obviously we're getting 100 even without using frame gen in some areas, as you can see. Can we climb this? No. And I'm not a big fan of Monster Hunter. By the looks of my gameplay, you can already tell. I'm not really good at it, so I'm just running around. That's why I'm not fighting anything. I'm not really interested in this game. There is that. So we're getting 86 average, guys. Pretty playable with this. But again, I'm saying this is a 4070 Ti Super. Its target resolution is 1440p. And that's what we are gonna test next. So let's get on to it. So now it's time for 1440p resolution. The target resolution of the 4070 Ti Super gonna be the main focus of our testing. And we're gonna use the ultra graphics settings preset first. And I'm gonna disable DLSS, and we're gonna use FXAA+TAA. Ray tracing is turned off. Frame generation is also turned off. As you can see, rest of the settings are set to their ultra equivalent settings. Oh my goodness, that's stuttering. It's not good, guys. That frame time is horrible. And GPU usage, as I told you, even at higher resolution, is not gonna max out. It's gonna hover around 90, dropping to 70 there. So 92, 94. It's not a good, well-optimized game at all. I don't know what they are doing, Capcom, but this needs to be way better than what it is right now. And we're getting 60 plus FPS at least, which is good. Using the ultra settings without any ray tracing whatsoever. And if we use RT, I think we might drop to 50 FPS.
What do you think we'll find?
And at least we can use DLSS Qlty in 1440p, which will make the image look a little bit more softer, but that's still acceptable in 1440p, unlike at 1080p. That's why I didn't test any upscaling at 1080p resolution, because the game looked already pretty horrible at 1080p resolution. So didn't want to make it even more horrible than what it was already, but 1440p we can do that. So we're getting 67 FPS average, guys. Pretty good. And these are one of those monsters which we have seen in the beta or the alpha, whatever it was. I'm gonna quickly enable DLSS frame generation and set it to DLAA this time, because without using DLSS we cannot enable frame gen in this game. And we are still in the ultra graphics settings preset without using any ray tracing. Now we are already getting a 60 plus FPS without using frame gen with the ultra graphics settings. So now that's why I didn't enable DLSS Qlty, because we don't need it, because we can just enable frame gen, because we're getting 60 plus FPS, the base FPS. So without further reducing the visual quality, we can just improve our gameplay smoothness by turning on DLSS frame gen. So with DLSS frame gen, we can get 100 plus FPS now with 1440p resolution. This is native 1440p once again. No upscaling being done, and image looks pretty good. Can't really notice any artifacting whatsoever so far, because the game looks already pretty horrible. And the draw distance is also not that great in this game. And right now it's like a bit of evening time, so a bit dark. And all those stutters are pretty much reduced now with DLSS frame gen enabled. As I've been saying, this game has been made with DLSS frame generation in mind, or frame generation, if you would like to say. But I think this is gonna be pretty playable experience. Can't feel any latency there. So it's time to test ray tracing, guys, at 1440p. I'm using the ultra graphics settings, and I'm gonna set it to ultra and change it manually so it enables DLSS. I'm gonna disable that, and we're gonna use FXAA+TAA, not gonna use DLAA. We need all the FPS we can get. So rest of the settings, here we go. And wow, all that textures are loading in. Wow, even with 16 gigs card, those textures I can see them loading in. Wow, they're taking a lot of time to load in. Obviously, we are using the high resolution texture. I mean, it shouldn't be happening in ultra graphics settings. That kind of looks crap, honestly. This is native 1440p, and the game still looks crap, even in this resolution. And we are just touching that 60 FPS mark somehow. And we will obviously have to use DLSS Qlty now. and maybe even frame generation on top of that. There's a lot of stuttering going on, as you can see already by the frame time graph. The frame time, we're getting to like 20s and then it's dropping to 15 the millisecond, obviously. Not a good experience, absolutely. And GPU usage is, as always, not maxing out. Look at our power, GPU power, it's like around 200 watts, whereas the 4070 Ti Super can go up to 280. This is not what it is. There's more room for improvement. So with the same settings as previous one, I'm going to use DLSS this time with quality upscaling mode, and unfortunately we cannot manually change the sharpness settings when using DLSS. And DLSS quality does make the image look a lot more sharper than it needs to be. We can adjust this to use FSR3, but I don't want to use that when we have DLSS, obviously. And ray tracing is set to high, as you can see. We'll try frame generation also after this. Alright, we are still dropping GPU usage to 80. Wow, even with ray tracing enabled, obviously it will be more CPU bound in this case because we're using DLSS now. And we didn't gain much of a FPS, maybe 10 FPS. Because we're getting like 70s now, and it even drops to 50s when we move around my camera a bit. It stutters a lot more now with quality DLSS. I don't know why is that the case. It probably has something to do with the CPU. Most likely the problem with this game is. And now we're getting 14 gigs of allocated VRAM. It just now dropped as soon as we came down here. 69, no 59, not 69. And it's not a good experience even with quality DLSS. Not a great improvement. So we will have to use frame generation also on top of this. And can we go on that side of the map? Probably not. Alright guys, since with quality DLSS it was kind of laggy experience with ray tracing on, I'm going to enable DLSS frame generation to get rid of all that stuttering. So we are at ultra graphics settings right now. And we are using quality DLSS frame gen enabled, and ray tracing is also turned on. Here we go guys, 100 plus FPS with the ultra ray tracing turned on. Input latency is slightly noticeable now. When it dropped to like 90 there, the FPS. But above 100 it's still fine. I don't know why it stutters here whenever I get to this area and turn back. There's like a huge stutter at times. And this is not a UE5 game. It's from Capcom Resident Evil engine, RE engine so-called. And I think that's what it stands for, RE, for Resident Evil, if I'm not wrong. And that engine is not so good at open world games, in my opinion. It runs fine in Resident Evil games, but not in an open world game like this. But with DLSS frame gen turned on, a lot of those stutters are gone. As you can see in the frame time graph, it's pretty smooth now. And now the GPU usage is at least closer to 100 this time, above 90. And not dropping into 80s. Gonna hit this monster a bit. And check out the latency. Oh my goodness, there's a huge spike there. You will occasionally see those spikes, as you can see, even during battle. Alright folks, at 1440p I'm gonna switch it to high graphics settings this time, and we're gonna turn off DLSS. Let's turn it off, and we're gonna use FXAA+TAA anti-aliasing, and everything is set to their high preset settings. Ray tracing is also turned off. So here are the base cam guys with high graphics settings. We're getting 67, 68, roughly around 65 FPS, and we will get a huge stutter once we get in this side of the base cam and turn my mouse. Okay, it doesn't do that when using the high graphics settings. It definitely did with the ultra, but with high settings it's much more stable, but those stutters are still present, as you can see in the frame time graph. So I won't spend too much time with these settings, as I have already showed you. You can play this game with ultra graphics settings only, with using frame generation, and it's quite playable already. Since we were already getting 60 plus FPS with high graphic settings without any ray tracing, I have enabled DLSS frame generation on top of NVIDIA DLAA. So this is gonna smooth out the experience even more. As you can already see, the frame time graph is pretty smooth than before. And VRAM usage has gone up. Obviously, we are using frame generation now. And the GPU usage still hovers around 95 now. And occasionally it will drop below 90 at times. But this is buttery smooth experience even with frame gen turned on. Can't believe I'm saying that. But yeah, this is playable experience, guys. And I'm gonna hop into my bird a bit and have a look around. And whoops, I just jumped out of my bird. And gonna go to the chicken monster quickly and get a few hits on him as usual. Test the latency and the lag or the frame time there. Gonna get out of this bird and hit this guy. Yeah, look at our frame time graph. It's pretty smooth, no lag whatsoever, no spikes on it. And input latency, I can't feel anything. Get some more hits on him. I know I won't be able to kill him ever. And for the final resolution, guys, we're gonna move on to 4K. And we're gonna start it off with low graphics settings, of course. And I expect we'll get around 60 FPS. And we will disable DLSS, so this is going to be native 4K. And for anti-aliasing, we're going to use FXAA+TAA. Everything is set to their low equivalent settings preset. And we are not using any ray tracing. I'm not going to test that at 4K. I might, let's see. We are actually getting 60 FPS, what I predicted. I honestly, trust me, I didn't start the game in the low settings. This is the first time I did on this GPU. And we are actually close to 60 FPS. We are getting less than that. But that was expected even with low at 4K native. We cannot achieve 60 plus all the time. This is what it is. How do you fly with this bird? Oops. Also, can anyone share the save game with me? Because I want to get past this desert area to other biomes. Like, there's a forest, I think. I want to get there for the benchmarking. That looks pretty cool to me. This level looks quite dead. I don't like deserts. So, if you can, please share the save game with me on my Discord. That would be pretty helpful, honestly. So, we are even dropping to 40 FPS there, 49.
I'll ride with you.
So, this area is a bit demanding, more than the camp around this tree. 46, 48. It's not like it's not playable, but obviously there's those micro stuttering. As always, you need to use DLSS frame generation to get rid of those. Now up next with 4K resolution, we're going to use the low settings once again, but this time we're going to use DLSS Qlty, and I've also enabled DLSS frame generation to get rid of all the stuttering issues. So we're going to only test this with frame generation, not just upscaling activated. So here we go, guys, at 4K. With quality DLSS and frame gen enabled, getting around 100 FPS in this camp area. I'm gonna quickly take the bird. How do you fly with this? That's what I want to know. I don't know how to fly, but I think this thing can fly actually. It has wings on it. But anyways, around this tree, it's gonna probably drop. Yeah, FPS is dropping below 90. Around this tree, 83. I don't know why this tree is so demanding though. But whatever. And input latency, I cannot really feel it. It is there, obviously. When it drops below 80, I can feel it a bit. But it's pretty negligible. As long as you are above 80, I think it's manageable.
There are a lot of monsters there.
And also, if you play with the controller, as I've been saying, you won't even notice a bit of it anyway. And even at 4K resolution, you can see the GPU usage. It doesn't just stick at 99% or 98. It's like dropping to 95, 94 at times. I'm gonna try another thing, that is I'm gonna switch this to DLSS performance. We're getting like 92 FPS in this scene. So I'm gonna switch this to performance DLSS with frame generation turned on. Using the low graphics settings, and we gained about 14 FPS there, 14-15 FPS. Not bad. And image also looks quite good, because this is, I think this is DLSS 4, as I have overridden it from the NVIDIA app. And it runs quite great, DLSS 4 in this game. It looks quite good as well, especially performance DLSS at 4K. And before DLSS 4, I didn't like using performance DLSS at 4K, but with DLSS 4, it looks stunningly good. And now I will go back near this tree. Was it this tree? I guess it was. Yeah, it's dropping to 99, around 100 FPS, sometimes 95, but most of the time it will stay above 100. Alright guys, I'm gonna increase the settings a bit now. I'm gonna switch to medium settings, and I will let DLSS sit on performance with frame generation enabled, but this time I'm gonna turn on ray tracing and set it to probably low for now. And we have performance DLSS enabled as well, and we can still get 100 FPS even with these settings, with the ray tracing set to low. And ray tracing in this game is only ray trace reflections for the water mostly. That's what you get. And input latency is quite good as long as it sits above 80 FPS, and which is what we are getting right now, 100 FPS. Let's go around that tree again, this one, and see how much it drops. I think it will drop around 80. I mean, previously only we were sitting around this FPS with low settings, and it's dropping around 82. That's pretty good. So I don't know what's the difference then from the previous settings. It's playing the same even with medium, with ray tracing this time set to low, with the DLSS frame generation enabled on top of performance DLSS. And this looks way better with medium settings, honestly, unlike with the low. I think medium is much more acceptable in terms of visuals than the low settings. I'm gonna hit these animals or monsters, because I can't kill the chicken monsters, so I'm gonna kill them instead, these dinosaurs. Whoa. Why isn't Tom helping us though? These guys like to jump a lot. For the final few settings, I'm going to test this at 4K using the high graphics settings this time. With DLSS, I'm going to change it to quality settings with frame generation turned on and ray tracing is set to off. And rest of the settings, as you can see. And straight off the bat, I can feel the input latency a bit, but it's not that bad. As long as the FPS is above 80, I've been saying it's quite good. It's bearable, like tolerable, I would say, still. But regardless of that, it's looking quite good with quality DLSS at 4K. As long as you are not using performance, it should be fine. But if you use performance DLSS, I think you can get about 100 FPS in this area easily with frame gen. And the only reason I'm using frame gen in this game right now is because of the frame time spikes. Because using frame gen completely eliminates those spikes and all the stutters. And here we are dropping to 70 FPS. Now I can really feel the input latency. Yeah, when it drops to 60, it's not that good.
There are a lot of monsters there.
So this setting is not so playable, I would say. Maybe we need to switch to performance DLSS to make it playable. Using the same settings as before, I have only switched performance DLSS now from quality. And rest of the settings, here they are. They're pretty much the same. And let's get on this thing and have a look around that if it drops below 80 or not around the tree. Probably shouldn't. Yeah, now it sticks above 80 FPS, as you can see, which means the input latency won't really be that noticeable with your mouse. And yeah, it stays above 80, which is what I wanted. And the image quality is a little bit downgrade,
Here
obviously,
looks like a natural
from
track.
quality DLSS to performance, but it's still acceptable with DLSS 4. And in some areas, as you can see, we can even get 100 FPS. So this is how you can play at 4K if you want to. Whoops, why is this thing suddenly started attacking me? I was just standing still. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Do leave a like if you enjoyed and if this video helped you, and also subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I will catch you on the next one. Till then, take care and bye bye.